Beato's pizza.
I'm glad Beatos came into the conversation.
Are you going to say you don't like Beato's?
No, I love
Oh my God.
Beatos.
I know. Did you just hear? I was going to be like, Sarah, we have to end this podcast.
This podcast was about to end. Meet Sarah and Samantha.
Two cousins obsessed with exploring the vast pop culture landscape, one recommendation at a time.
In each episode, one clueless cousin shares real-time reactions as they navigate the twists and turns of a pop culture topic selected by the other.
From travel to movies,
Little Debbie's to trashy novels.
Get ready to eavesdrop on the candid reactions and dynamic conversations you can only have with family.
This is Foreign and Familiar.
Welcome back to Foreign and Familiar. I'm Samantha.
And I'm Sarah.
And we are here today back on our Foreign and Familiar train talking about Pittsburgh. So,
good old Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh is definitely familiar to both of us, but much more familiar to you.
Because I'm there right now.
Well, and
I live there.
I was born in Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
Were you as well, Sarah?
I was not. I was born about 2-ish hours southwest of Pittsburgh.
Okay.
So close enough.
But I will say this. I think Western PA and Eastern PA are very different. I mean, my family moved and we've been in Eastern PA for 25, 30 years. My parents, I'm not there now. But there is a big difference. I'm so excited to do this episode because I love Pittsburgh. Like, definitely our family's roots come from Pittsburgh, right? So cousin husband's mom and my dad are siblings. So Pittsburgh has my extended family on both sides. My dad met his wife, my mom in Pittsburgh.
Right.
So it's always nice. I feel like whenever I'm able to make it back to Pittsburgh, it feels like home
mm-hmm.
in a different, unique kind of way. And I think that I tell people all the time, like, have you ever been? And if they haven't, I'm like, just go, because it's it's unlike any other city I feel like I've ever really been to.
Right. And I think Pittsburgh's almost one of those places that you don't go to unless there's a reason, right? You don't come here unless you're here for T Swift or like a football game or something. But it is a really great city. There's a lot of really great food. There's a lot of really nice things to do. I wouldn't say it's as busy as like New York or Chicago, and like definitely size-wise, it does not measure up. But I think it's definitely worth the trip for sure.
We're going to dig in on the different things about Pittsburgh or what people should know if they want to visit Pittsburgh, or maybe hopefully would be inspired to visit Pittsburgh. But what do we have on our snacking plate? I know we love to do a podcast with a snack.
Another thing that is pretty popular in Western PA, especially Pittsburgh, is a cookie table at a wedding. So for listeners who might not know what that means, is that at a wedding, either in place of or in addition to a cake, there is a table that is just filled with cookies that the families have baked, bought, just prepared for this wedding. And some of them are massive. Some of them are huge.
I would go a step farther. I would say it is only a Pittsburgh or like that general area. Nobody has ever heard of that as we come out and do it. On the sense of, to your point, it's not just like a table full of cookies. It's like all the women of the generation and the family make dozens and dozens and dozens of cookies. And it's kind of like the ultimate cookie swap. And then that usually is the favor. The favor is then people can make a box of cookies to take home from the table from what is left.
Right.
I've only ever seen it at Pittsburgh weddings. And it's the only question where if it's somebody that has ties to Pittsburgh and I'm like, are you getting a cookie table? They know exactly what I'm talking about. And the answer is either yes or no. And if it's no, it is then followed by a long description of the argument with their mom or the parent or someone like that on why they're choosing not to do a cookie table. Because honestly, I think it's kind of unheard of if you are in the Pittsburgh. It's unheard of if you're outside of Pittsburgh to have a cookie table. If you're in the Pittsburgh area, it's unheard of to not have a cookie table at your wedding.
Right. And it's no small part of the planning process. It's not just, oh, on a whim, we decided to have a cookie table. It's up there with getting a wedding dress, sending out invites. Like it is months and months of planning for this cookie table.
It's the coordination of the type. It's when to drop off the cookie table. It's finding the caterers that will accept and serve a cookie table. It's basically like a cookie potluck. There's so much to be done. When do you bring the cookies out? Does it overshadow the cake? I mean, what are the varieties? That being said, I love a good cookie table. So,
oh, yeah.
I think we both know our way around a cookie table.
For sure.
I would love to know, what is your go-to that you make if you are contributing to a cookie table, and or what is your go-to if you are eating at a cookie table? What is the first thing you go for?
If I'm making to contribute to a cookie table, I would probably do those like thumbprint cookies that are just like the sugar cookie with the Hershey Kiss on top, because those are like easy. You can whip a ton of them out in no time at all. If I'm eating at a cookie table, it's the Russian wedding cookies with the shortbread pecan with like the powdered sugar on top.
The Russian tea cakes.
Yes.
Okay.
Delicious.
So I would say on my end, I make the Russian tea cakes. That's what I contribute, because it is, and I will make you some Russian tea cakes next time. It is so easy. They are like 2 or 3 ingredients.
Right.
Max. You put all the powdered sugar on them, and this is totally cheating, but they are so small that you probably get 3 dozen out of one batch. They're done quickly. They are done so quickly. They don't take up a lot of room. So I always sign up for the Russian tea cakes first, you know, because to your point, if they're easy to transport, you can get a big, huge Tupperware and just throw in 12 dozen. They're so tiny. And people also really like them. And so I do feel like that's a status cookie, you know?
Yeah. If you have them, you've made it.
If you're making the Russian tea cakes, like to what you just said, that's what I go for, right? So there's some pressure.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would say the ones that I look for and or eat at the cookie table first are the cocoa crinkle cookies.
Those are good.
You know, those chocolate ones that are like just underbaked a little bit in the center and have the powdered sugar. Those are fantastic. Those are fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
That would be something if Little Debbie would do a cocoa crinkle cookie.
That would be
sandwich.
Good. With like a white icing in the middle or like a chocolate icing in the middle?
I think I would do I would do chocolate? A white icing. No, I do a white icing. I understand why you'd be confused because I just said I'd do a chocolate one, but I meant a vanilla one. It's late in the day, Sarah.
It's fine. You know, Sam, I did not have a cookie table at my wedding. As we mentioned, cookie tables are a lot of work. They're a big commitment. You're asking people to make dozens and dozens of cookies that don't last very long. When we were planning our wedding, I tried to keep things as simple as possible. And so we did big baskets of different flavors of popcorn and just had cute little bags for people to scoop their own popcorn in as like a after the wedding, before dinner kind of snack.
Your wedding was stunning and beautiful, and I had an amazing time. Truly. Did you feel like you had to manage the conversation?
I didn't have to break it to anybody in my family that I wasn't doing a cookie table. Like nobody really asked. So, but again, I'm not like, I didn't live in Pittsburgh at the time. We were a little southwest of Pittsburgh, or southeast of Pittsburgh, I guess.
But I had, again, my friend here in Chicago had a massive cookie table. She's Pittsburgh originally. And her husband, his family is an international family, and they were so tickled and or in love with the concept and the execution of a cookie table, and it like blew their. That's the thing, is like, I think it's like the cookie table, we know, we're like, okay, we'll have a cookie table, we won't have a cookie table, but if you're experiencing a cookie table for the first time, it truly is an amazing thing. It's an experience. It's, you know,
right
taking it all in. You have to strategize. You get a box that you can take away with you, but you have to look and really closely look at all of the cookie varieties that are available. And sometimes they bring out different cookie varieties throughout the rest of the night. So if you've already used your box, you know, there is a whole coordination aspect to the cookie table that I do understand. Like, I'm getting married do I need to manage another dessert? Well, we'll talk about Pittsburgh when we come back from the break. We'll get into some more of the characteristics of the city. We'll go from there. Welcome back to Foreign and Familiar. We are talking today about Pittsburgh, city near and dear to all of our hearts that never, I think, gets enough credit, although did get a little bit of shine in Steve Carell recently said when he was on the Office Ladies podcast, they asked him what city or what place he likes to visit. And he said, Pittsburgh's a really cool city. Out of everywhere he picked Pittsburgh.
Yeah, like anywhere in the world. Little old Pittsburgh. What a nice compliment.
Pittsburgh has so much character and it's so unique. I don't know that you find any other place like it. To me, Pittsburgh just has this, always going to have this blue collar grip on the town in the most lovely way. In the most lovely way, truly.
Yeah.
Because the steel mines were there and it's a city that's friendly like a small town. One of my favorite fun facts about Pittsburgh that a lot of people may not know is it is the only city in which all of the sports teams have the same colors.
That's right. Yeah. The Pirates, the Steelers, and the Penguins are all black and gold.
All black and gold. There's no differentiating. They do not have a basketball team. But if they did, they would be some sort of black and gold. So
right.
I also think from a Steelers perspective, they're maybe the only ones that only have the logo on one side of the helmet, and they don't have cheerleaders.
Right.
Never have.
Right.
I feel like that's Pittsburgh in a nutshell,
Yep. Keeping it simple.
It actually is the only logo. It is the only one that only has one logo.
I didn't know that. That's cool.
So, Sarah, so my story with Pittsburgh is I lived in Pittsburgh area, moved around. I would say I've been out of Pittsburgh since I was in second or third grade, but I do come back and visit quite a bit. I would not say by any means I am a Pittsburgh person. So you've grown up in Western Pennsylvania, but how long would you say that you have lived in Pittsburgh or Pittsburgh as an adult?
As an adult, I've lived in Pittsburgh for 4 years. But before that, I spent quite a bit of time in and around the city throughout college and after.
And so what would you say if people are trying to visit Pittsburgh? Because like you said, I would agree, unless there's a convention or a business meeting or a family or a wedding or something like that, I don't know that Pittsburgh is really I think it's a destination for people in West Virginia. That's another thing I think our listeners may not know is that West Virginia is literally what?
An hour, if that, from Pittsburgh. Like, it's really close.
You have people that will root against Pitt and root for West Virginia on the college football games on Saturdays that are Steelers football fans on Sundays.
Right.
So for people that may find themselves in Pittsburgh or haven't thought, like, I know that it's America's most livable city, I think is the slogan right now.
I think so, yeah.
And the home of Heinz ketchup.
Right.
I still to this day cannot buy and or will use any ketchup that is not Heinz.
Oh, of course. I don't know why you would.
I was grocery shopping the other day and there were non-Heinz ketchups on sale and I paid the full price for the Heinz ketchup. It runs deep.
Yeah.
Get the Hunts out of here. Get the Hunts
We don't
out of
want
here.
that.
And if you want to talk about that red gold ketchup, do you know? I mean, that.
Oh, I do.
Yeah. No. It's got to be Heinz ketchup. And it does make a difference. And Heinz is synonymous with Pittsburgh.
Yeah. I mean, I still call it Heinz Field and it's not Heinz Field anymore. It's, what is it? Acrisure? No, it is Heinz Field, but the stadium is a different name. I think it's Heinz Field at Acrisure Stadium or where the Steelers play, but it will forever be Heinz Field to me.
I didn't realize that they had named it Acrisure Stadium until, honestly, a month ago, 2 months ago. But before it was Heinz Field, it was Three Rivers Stadium, which was awesome. So what makes Pittsburgh very interesting, and I could be wrong again, we're going to have to double check on this. I think it has the most rivers of any city.
I think so. Or it's very close. I'm not sure. It definitely has a lot.
Before it was Heinz Field, it was Three Rivers Stadium. And the three rivers is the Ohio, the Allegheny, and the Monongahela.
Yep.
That is a great trivia. If you're ever doing trivia, people in Pittsburgh would know that, but like Monongahela is a very out there.
It is.
To know. There's so much water, I think, in Pittsburgh that people don't really realize.
Right. Because of that, there are many, many bridges.
I know that there's the Fort Pitt Bridge and
there's the Roberto Clemente Bridge. I was like, you're pointing to one of like 5 yellow ones. I don't know.
There would be a Roberto Clemente Bridge in Pittsburgh.
There is.
Pittsburgh, here's the thing. I say this like Chicago loves people from Chicago, but Pittsburgh people go ape over people from Pittsburgh. So like Jeff Goldblum is from Pittsburgh, and everybody that's in and around or knows that, you know, Christina Aguilera's from Wexford, Wiz Khalifa. He gives Pittsburgh his due. I mean, he's got the song Pittsburgh
Black
sound.
And yellow. Yeah.
He's always like representing Pittsburgh. He's a proud Pittsburgh guy for sure.
We used to not live far from him.
Yeah, right around the corner.
Yeah. That was a fun fact to know.
Fun fact.
Mr. Rogers.
Mr. Rogers is from Pittsburgh. That's correct. Dan Marino played for Pitt.
Right.
Pat McAfee, who is a sports broadcaster. How I just found out about Pat McAfee is I heard him say a word, and I can't remember what it was, but Pittsburgh has such a particular and unique accent that is impossible to get confused with anything else.
Right.
And I heard Pat McAfee on the radio, and he said a word. And in my mind, I said, he is from Pittsburgh. I had no idea he's from Pittsburgh. And I Googled it. And sure enough, he's from Pittsburgh. I love a Pittsburgh accent. I love a Pittsburgh accent. Do you have a strong feeling either way?
I don't really have a strong feeling either way. No.
For people that may not know it, so the grocery store is Giant Eagle. And so they'd say what? Giant Eagle?
Giant Eagle. Yeah.
Giant Eagle.
Downtown is downtown.
Downtown.
Yeah.
Downtown. I was going downtown.
If you are not familiar with a Pittsburgh accent and you're somehow not familiar with Pittsburgh Dad, I feel like he does a good example of.
We should post something over there for sure.
Yeah.
We'll post something on IG.
Yeah. I don't think I have a very strong Pittsburgh accent. Like there are definitely some things, but I think it's more just like Western PA things. Like I say like radiator instead of radiator. It's not a basement, it's a cellar. It's a crick, not a creek. I don't know that those are necessarily Pittsburgh things, but the one thing that I do struggle that pops up into my like conversations regularly, and of course, is yins. Like,
yes,
that's a hard one to drop.
Yinzers, yes. So Pittsburgh, so yins, and that is absolutely a dialect, and I cannot believe it took us this long to bring up yins. Yins, guys.
Right. It's such a useful word because what else is like a collective term for a group of people? I don't say y'all. I'm not from the South. So like you all, like yins is one word. It's so convenient. So that's a hard one for me to.
Yins makes a lot of sense. And I will say that I have dropped yins from my vocab, but if I would bring it back, I would use it all the time because it is a very useful word. Like yins get in the kitchen. Yins are being ridiculous, you know? And I will say that is 10,000% native to and only. If somebody says, for anybody listening, if somebody says yins, they are from Western PA/Pittsburgh. 100%. Other things where it's, you know, clicker instead of remote control, tennis shoes instead of sneakers. Pittsburgh is, it's definitely got its characteristics, and the people are super nice. What I like about Pittsburgh is everybody lives and dies and breathes by the Steelers and by the sports that are in that town. And it's very sweet. Sweet is probably the word I would use. Everybody from your priest to the person bagging your groceries to your child's kindergarten teacher can talk Steelers football.
Steelers football. Yep.
Can talk Steelers football and knows exactly what's going on. I think people that are rare that don't care about Steelers football, they go shopping during the games because nobody is out.
Right.
If the Pittsburgh Steelers are in the Super Bowl, regardless, I mean, there's a 2-hour delay no matter what on the Monday after.
Right.
And if they win, they cancel school. And if they don't, it's a 2-hour delay because it's like the city shuts down. The Steelers are in the Super Bowl. Places are closed. Get your hoagies.
Yeah.
Go get your hoagies. get your Hermanis.
Right.
We're watching Steelers football and we're watching the game. And that's all anybody ever does. What are you doing for the game? What are you doing for the game? And I love it. It's like it's just very cultural. It's like it's the center part of it, you know?
Yeah.
If you don't like football, though, there's a lot to do. I think over the past couple of years, Pittsburgh's really built itself up in a sense of cultural district and food, which, of course, in travel, we're always going to get to food. So,
of course,
we'll eventually get to all of the food.
Yes.
But for someone that's maybe just coming, a tourist first time to Pittsburgh, like what do you think are some highlights that they can't miss?
I don't know about you, but I love a zoo and I'll go to the zoo in any city. The Pittsburgh Zoo, I feel like a zoo is always a safe place to start. Other like typical things, Kennywood Amusement Park and Sandcastle Water Park are really great as well.
The Steel Phantom is the big ride there. Although I think they changed it a couple years ago, the Phantom's Revenge, or it's the same thing.
I think so. I think there's something else that they added to it. I'm not really sure.
But the Steel Phantom was the new back in the day steel roller coaster, went really fast. Before that, you had like the Jackrabbit or the racers that were all wooden.
The wooden roller coasters, yeah.
So the Steel Phantom was, that's so. I will say this. In my day, I was an amusement park connoisseur. It has not translated into me being an amusement park adult like you, Sarah, which we will get into. I don't think there's any better amusement park, again, save for, some of these larger Disney,
right.
For regional amusement. And that includes Six Flags, that includes Knoebels, which is another Pennsylvania one, that includes Dorney Park, all of those.
Right.
Six Flags. Kennywood is, if you're an amusement park person and you have not been to Kennywood, it is amazing. It's just got a little bit of everything. The music box ride, that's so fun, a mix of everything for everyone. But that's a great recommendation.
Yeah.
I completely forgot about Kennywood. You're bringing up so many memories right now.
We don't have to linger on the food at Kennywood, but the food doesn't disappoint either. Potato patch fries.
Oh my gosh. And you put the vinegar on them.
Yeah.
Oh, I completely forgot about potato patch fries. I'm so glad we're doing this up. Anyway, sorry.
So I feel like those are like typical touristy things that you look for whenever you're going to a new city. There is an art museum, a natural history museum that's pretty cool as well. The Andy Warhol Museum, I feel I just went there last year for the first time. I don't know why it took me so long, but definitely worth visiting.
I have wanted to go to the Andy Warhol Museum for 10 years now. Every time I'm in the city, I just don't end up going. Andy Warhol, he's another one that's from Pittsburgh, right? I mean, that's why it's there. Talk about that.
Are you the type of person who reads everything when you're in a museum, or is it just like a quick walkthrough? I'll look at a couple of things and...
It's a mix of both.
Yeah, same. I feel like Cousin Husband is more... let's quickly walk through and see what we need to see. And I'm more like, I'll stop and read everything. But yeah, so if you're the type of person who likes to stop and read everything, there's a lot of really cool, interesting information about how art has changed over the years, Andy Warhol's contributions, his life in general. There's a lot of really cool displays, the Campbell's soup cans and all of that stuff. And when I was there, they were highlighting some of the collaborations that he did. I think it's a good place to just kind of get a feel of like Pittsburgh, really. There's a lot of influence that the city had over his art and his life. So I think it's worth visiting.
Well, and I think talking about some of the different areas in Pittsburgh. So obviously we've been talking about the downtown, kind of the museums and all that. But the Andy Warhol Museum is in the Strip District. Is that right?
It's close to it, I think.
Okay. So for people that may not be familiar with what the Strip District is, how would you describe it?
I would describe it as a strip of the city that is just like packed with little shops, like restaurants, shops, food stores. It's hard to describe like if you don't know what it is or if you haven't been there, but
I feel like it's an open air market
yeah.
with
Yeah.
stores, but the open air is like Steeler stuff everywhere.
Right,
And
right.
it's all unique. Each vendor can sell. So it's like if you need a terrible towel, if Penzeys Spices are down there are breweries
Right.
down there. I think that that's a good place to check out if you're in Pittsburgh, just to kind of, you'll get the feel for the city. And it's where I think local Pittsburgh people do shop.
I think
For
so.
sure.
Yeah.
Again, there's, not always going out there, but, there's Woolies Fish down there.
Yeah, I was just gonna say you was it the first time you had Woolies?
Yes. And then because I was calling it Holies. So again, that's the Pittsburgh accent. It's Woolies, but it's spelled Wholeys, like
Yeah.
Holies, but it's Woolies. So that's a Pittsburgh accent.
Right.
It's this like insane fish market in the middle of Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
It is massive. You can get what is the fish sandwich we had there? I got a smaller version, but
Is it the Whaler, I think?
the Whaler, that's right.
Yeah, which is like a full pound and a half of fish on a fresh baked bun. So yeah, Woolies is like, it's a full fish market. So if you are shopping they have a sushi stand. If you're shopping for just fish to like make for dinner, you can get all of that there. But then they fry fish there that you can just like sit down and eat. And they have their own tartar sauce to go on it. And yeah, it's an experience. But the amount of fish that you get, it's enough for like almost 2 days.
It's on TripAdvisor as the Woolies Whaler Experience. They do lobster mac and cheese. It's super fresh fish, any kind you want. And I will say that I think it's really important because Pittsburgh, I think traditionally still is a very Catholic city in the sense of, I would say culturally, I'm sure a lot of people still practice there, but
Right.
There is nothing like being in Pittsburgh for a fish fry during Lent season. That's all people do. It's like, are you coming to the fish fry on Friday?
Yep.
And, what are we doing from there? Right. So Strip District, I think is cool. Another thing that I think is very interesting from Pittsburgh perspective is Carson Street and the South Side there. I think, tons of restaurants, tons of bars. We'll get into the food again, here in a little bit, but Pittsburgh is a great food town and a unique and very specific one, but you can find good bites, good things in Pittsburgh all the time. Carson Street, I think, is where kind of all the young adults go out, people looking like single people that are there. It's the place to be during Steelers games for bar specials. If you're out there looking to kind of bounce around, Carson Street's a good place to go.
Mm-hmm. You had mentioned the cultural district earlier. There are a couple of theaters in the city that do different plays, different shows. So if you're into musicals or wanting to see concerts, there are plenty of places for that.
I think Pittsburgh kind of notoriously is a tough market to sell tickets in.
Yeah.
Bands will reschedule. Hello, the Killers.
Yep.
Bands will reschedule. Or comedians. It's kind of that's what a lot of comedians and stuff will say is like these kind of hole in the wall, rural places. Although I don't know that I describe Pittsburgh as rural. It's a city. It's a populous city. How many people do you think live there?
Oh, I don't know.
I'm going to Google it. I'm going to say 500,000.
I feel I'm so bad with like guessing numbers. I'm going to say 35,000.
35,000 people.
I have no idea. I'm
God.
so bad with guessing numbers.
It looks like in the city proper has about 300,000 people.
Okay, so I was just a little bit off.
Just 10 times less.
Right.
But I think they're saying in the area it's about 1.7.
Mm-hmm. Because there are a lot of like most people when they talk about Pittsburgh, they don't just talk about like the downtown portion. It's Pittsburgh and all of the surrounding areas.
10,000%. 10,000%. So I would say for me, there's more culture than you realize. There's better food that you realize. There's all the museums, all the different things to do. I think for me, what's really interesting and that you can get kind of in Pittsburgh is, again, the view of the rivers. You can take a boat ride on the rivers. You can do all that. But Mount Washington and the incline, so they put you on this, I don't know how to say it, like an incline. I think, it's kind of like a rickety, trolley up the mountain, and it takes you up to the top, and you just get this absolutely beautiful, breathtaking panoramic view of downtown Pittsburgh. That's one of the best views and most beautiful. That view never gets old to me, ever.
Right.
And you're climbing all the way. So if you don't want to drive all the way to the top of the hill, you're able to go see Mount Washington. You're able to go do that, which is really fantastic. I also think, like, given the size, if you're anywhere within driving distance, check out going to, like you're saying, shows in Pittsburgh, doing things like that, because it's much easier to get tickets.
Yeah, absolutely. And this might be an entirely separate episode, but cousin husband and I are very big fans of emo music. And we have been seeing a lot of great bands from the early 2000s, Emery, Hawthorne Heights, Yellowcard, in very small venues all around the city. Ticket prices are super cheap, not a ton of people, still great performances, but it's been one of our favorite things. Like, we've found a lot of really amazing venues. Is there anything else that you were thinking of, like sightseeing wise, or are we getting ready to tackle some food?
Always want to tackle food. Why don't we take a quick break, and we'll come back and we'll talk all things food. We are back talking all things Pittsburgh, really just being fangirls. We're from here, just trying to shine some light on the amazingness. It's an hour flight from Chicago. You spend almost as much time on the runway as you do in the air. It's very, very easy. Which is why we maybe get to see each other so much, Sarah, because it is so close. Yes, I love that. Let's get into my favorite thing to talk about any travel place that we go. Let's talk about Pittsburgh food.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, I feel like the first thing to note is that we put fries on everything.
Pittsburgh is the only place where you can have fries on a salad, and that's like table stakes. If you don't want French fries on your salad, you have to tell them when you order it, I don't want fries on my salad. But there is nothing like a Pittsburgh steak salad. They put the steak on the fries, which is then on the salad with all of this blue cheese. There's truly nothing like that. They put the mozzarella cheese over the steak, which is over the fries.
Yes.
The juices of the steak mold into the fries, and then people be like, I had a salad for lunch. And like, they'll look you straight in the eye. I had a salad for lunch.
But you had a salad, but it was 2,000 calories.
Not to be confused with the French fries that we put on sandwiches at Primanti Brothers.
Right, because that's its own thing. So for listeners that are unfamiliar, Primanti Brothers is a restaurant franchise based out of Pittsburgh. All of the sandwiches come with fries and coleslaw. Do they all come with? They all come with.
I think that's all slaw. Yeah.
Yeah. So
on the sandwich, though.
On the sandwich. And again, the salads, if you don't want the fries directly on your sandwich, you have to specify that you don't want them on the sandwich.
They have fries on the side, because then some people order fries. Most people order fries on the side then, because your sandwich fries are different than your fries as your side.
Right, right.
And they say, and fries with that, they don't mean on the sandwich, they mean with on the side. So you get double servings of fries.
Right.
Pittsburgh has a way of pulling out putting in the maximum fat to pull out the maximum flavor. And you don't even care, it's so good. I swear I was eating at a Primanti Brothers once, and I literally felt my heart slow down a beat while I was eating at Primanti's, and I just didn't care. It was so delicious.
Right, right. Absolutely.
It's like that Primanti's ping. There are so many places, like there are some places here in Chicago, Lucky Sandwich Company, or like other places across the country that try to do this. No sandwich at all. It originated in Pittsburgh. It is so much better in Pittsburgh. Lucky Sandwich Company right across here. They were on Food Network. They were doing all that. It wasn't for Manny Brothers. It just wasn't, you know, and imitation is the best form of flattery. I don't want to hear anybody say anything until you've had a Primanti Brothers sandwich. If you have a Lucky sandwich and a Primanti Brothers sandwich and you tell me that Lucky's is better, then you're just trying to get my goat. There's no, it really is that good. It really is that good. I would say on the other side, from a Pittsburgh perspective, very Polish cuisine.
Right.
Really, pierogies are everywhere and all things.
Yeah.
And they're amazing. I fry them up with butter. Of course, everything's got butter. Everyone knows what a pierogi is. So mashed potatoes, close. I guess it's like the Polish version of gnocchi as I think about it, except it's potatoes.
Yeah. So it's like a pasta dough with some form of like mashed potatoes on the inside. They come in a variety of flavors. Sometimes there's like a meat mixed in, and then they're just fried with butter. A lot of times it's like sauteed onions as well. Yeah.
I do not eat pierogies near as much as I should.
I was just thinking the same thing. I remember that being like a cafeteria lunch at school, and they weren't good, but like having them for dinner. And I can't think the last time I had a pierogi, which is a problem.
I think the best pierogies are the ones that are loaded mashed potatoes. Like they'll bake and load the mashed potatoes, and then they'll put it in pasta, and then they fry it again and butter and stuff. So I think the side of that, which is also the big Polish, is halushki.
Oh yeah.
Which is just cut cabbage and onions, salt and pepper in a ton of butter. Oh no, noodles. Egg noodles.
Yeah.
Yep. And I don't know how to describe how delicious that is when it sounds like the most basic ingredients in the world.
It's so good. And I think everyone makes it a little bit differently. Like my uncle always puts bacon in his. And it's so good. I don't know if this is a Pittsburgh thing or if this is, I don't know what this is. So pigs in a blanket are the little smokies wrapped in crescent roll, right?
Yeah.
So like for me growing up, pigs in a blanket were cabbage rolls. Like that's what we call cabbage rolls.
Okay.
Yeah. So like I don't know if that's a Pittsburgh thing or if it's just a cultural, I don't know what it is, but I always have to ask people when they're talking about pigs in a blanket, what they're referring to. Cause to me, a pig in a blanket is like hamburger and rice rolled in cabbage and then put in like a tomato based sauce.
So we would call that stuffed cabbage.
Okay. Yeah.
So for us, we do pigs in a blanket. So actually my family, like for Christmas breakfast, because we always do like a big dinner or whatever, something easy that we're all of us, open presents and stuff.
Right.
We would always do pigs in a blanket Christmas morning, every morning. So we call them pigs in a blanket. I completely forgot about stuffed cabbage. I made them. Those are so hard to make. Have you ever tried to make those?
No. I'm not a great cook. I can make passable meals. That seems like a level of expertise that I'm not ready for yet.
You have to boil the head of cabbage and individually peel each leaf and roll it, and it gets interesting. I made some a couple years ago with purple cabbage just because I felt like it. That's a really good meal. So Pittsburgh's comfort food is what we're hearing. I will say another thing you can only get in Pittsburgh. I have no idea why it's not franchised. It's the most delicious thing in the whole world. I will get it every single time I come to Pittsburgh, is Beato's Pizza.
I'm glad Beato's came into the conversation.
Are you going to say you don't like Beato's?
No, I love Beato's.
Oh my God. I know. Did you just hear? I was going to be like, Sarah, we have to end this podcast.
This podcast was about to end.
I know. So for people that don't know Beato's, and Beato's is on Banksville Road, just go. Don't double think. Just go. It is pizza that is cut into squares, and it's warmed in the oven with a tomato sauce. So it's a square like McCain Elio's pizza squares. Except there's no cheese, there's no topping on it. So let's say that you ordered a slice of cheese. The pizza comes out and they throw a handful of raw mozzarella cheese on the warm pizza square. And that is how you consume it.
Yes. So the crust and the sauce are always cooked the cheese and everything else, every topping is cold.
If you get pepperoni, it comes out and it's a raw handful of mozzarella and raw pieces of pepperoni on the top. Banana peppers, same thing. Anything that you're saying. I do not know how to describe to anybody that has not eaten Betos how much it works.
Right. And I feel like I don't know that handful is the right word to describe how much cheese and everything else that they put on. How would you measure that?
So I say handful, it's probably half a bag.
Yeah, a handful, but like a giant's hand.
There's something about the heat of these squares as they are coming out of the oven that just melts the cheese enough, but it's still raw. It's delicious. It is. And I truly have no idea why somebody has not tried to steal that, repurpose that, franchise that.
Right.
Mr. Beto or Betos, they're a staple in the city for sure.
They are. Absolutely. They're always busy.
Yeah. And for good reason.
Yeah.
All the time I'm like, I got to get a piece. I don't care. I will get a car. I'll go myself. They don't do delivery. That's the thing, is you have to go. But I will also say that I think that there's some nice fine dining in Pittsburgh as well. There's some nice elevated, lots of options, vegan, healthy things that are closer in. So it's not just you have to like want comfort food, and or if you are trying to have a life of a little bit of moderation from the constant food that we're talking about, there are plenty of options in Pittsburgh. There's fine dining in Pittsburgh. And I think a good mix of chains, but also a good mix of original things.
Absolutely. I mean, I can't think of any healthy places, but that's probably a me problem.
Well, there's Altius, I think, which is supposed to be pretty good. I haven't been there. Have you been there?
I have been there. Yes. On Mount Washington?
Yes.
That one? Yeah. So we went there a couple of years ago for an anniversary dinner. It was delicious, but the big takeaway, I guess I'm obsessed with popcorn and didn't know it. Instead of doing like a bread basket, they did a blue cheese popcorn as like your bread course for the meal. And it was delicious. I'm not a big blue cheese fan, but when we were leaving, we asked for a separate bag of popcorn to take with our leftovers because it was so good.
I mean, that sounds absolutely delicious. I love blue cheese and popcorn. And that's something that I feel like I would not try to do myself at home. It's a rotating menu, rack of lamb, pork chop, king salmon, all that. They have the couple different desserts. Actually, I'm looking at their menu right now. Something we didn't talk about. I don't know that this is a Pittsburgh thing though, but the strawberry pretzel salad.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. I don't want to sit here and have our two listeners be like, we know what strawberry pretzel salad is. I think Pittsburgh in general is kind of like a salad heavy.
Yeah.
Well, like it's whether it's a potato salad or I had a party one time in my mid-20s and it was a sweatpants and salads party.
I love that.
Everybody brought a different kind of salad and you don't realize like a Caesar salad, a pasta salad, a taco salad, ambrosia salad, all of those different things. And it was a potluck within a salad format. And it was awesome. It was awesome.
Yeah, that sounds really fun.
I just think Pittsburgh is, lovely. I used to always say, if I wasn't in Chicago, I would probably be in Pittsburgh. I actually definitely would be in Pittsburgh. That's the only place I would probably live in Pennsylvania, I think. But not to get your hopes up, Sarah.
And the hopes of our two listeners.
And the hopes of our two listeners, our two, our two family members.
They would love it.
I just think it's been too long. You know, I really wanted to go to Pitt so bad. I wanted to go to Pitt. I wanted to be right there in Oakland. Talk about the universities, and Pitt is a great school. Carnegie Mellon is there. I mean, that's an amazing school. Duquesne University.
Right. Yeah. There's so many good schools just in that area.
Pittsburgh's a city where if you look twice or squint your eyes, I mean, there's so many of these little gems to be found. I think there's a Frank Lloyd Wright house around there as well. I'd have to double look.
Falling Water's not far, I think.
Okay, that's probably what I'm thinking of. So Falling Water. But it is, it's like, it's so much, it's just beautiful. I just love it there. I want to come home. I feel like, oh, I just called it home. I was there in March this year. I think I'm going to come back and visit. So any final takeaways, fun facts, anything people should think about when they're coming into Pittsburgh?
I think it's a really great place, especially if you're looking for like a more relaxing kind of trip. I think you can definitely find that here. One pitfall maybe is driving is a little bit crazy. I know I've seen pictures on Instagram, like you have 10 seconds to make your decision and there are like 12 different roadsides pointing in different directions. I'm pretty sure that picture was taken in Pittsburgh. So just because of the amount of tunnels and bridges, like driving can be a little bit crazy. I think there's a saying that Pittsburgh is the king of like, I can see it, but I can't get to it. So if you are planning a trip here, just take into account that the city is accessible by tunnels and bridges almost exclusively. So driving can be a little bit of a nightmare.
And I would say not a public transit friendly city. Yes, there's the T, we all know. There's the bus system and the T and all that. But it is not, it's a car heavy city. Their airport's interesting because you have to which is not unique to Pittsburgh, but I do find to be annoying. You do have to take a tram to get over to baggage claim. That is annoying.
Right. You have to take it if you're going into the airport, once you're through security, you have to take it to the gates. And then when you're coming back, you have to take it to the baggage claim.
Right. I think if you would come visit Pittsburgh, I think that you're going to walk away pleasantly surprised and really enjoying Pittsburgh a lot more than you think. It is just, and granted, I mean, generations of my family are from there and live there. I always look forward to going into Pittsburgh. I will go into Pittsburgh multiple times in a year if I can. And granted, some people say, well, that's to see family. I mean, not always, though. I have plenty of family that live in other areas, and I don't go in multiple times to see family there. It's because Pittsburgh is always a good time. Mm-hmm. And it really is very incredibly unique. You just have to experience it to experience it. And you can decide never to experience it again, but I don't know anybody that's, there. So anyway, it was fun reminiscing on that stuff, Sarah.
Yeah. I would say for listeners, like we really highlighted kind of our favorites. So if there is anybody who is wanting to plan a trip to Pittsburgh and is looking for more specific recommendations, we would be happy to help with that. But obviously, if it's fried or there's butter or fries on it, we're down.
We're there. Sarah, want to sign us off? Let's keep it in the theme.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll see you later. Thanks for listening.
Later. Thanks for listening. All right. Bye. Thanks for eavesdropping on us.
If you can't get enough of the Cousin Chronicles, head over to Instagram and follow @FauxFamPod for more in-depth info and behind-the-scenes details.
Or email us at foreignfamiliarpod@gmail.com.
Foreign and Familiar is a Flynn & Flynn production.
The theme is Colorful by Allerly von Nicolai.